Hello, everyone. Before we get started with the final episode of Season 1, I wanted to say a few things. First, apologies if my voice sounds a bit off. I'm recovering from a cold. Second, I missed a week there. My apologies. Third, thanks to all of you that have subscribed. Make sure you hit that bell icon to get notified about weekly videos. And finally, thanks to those that commented. I have now learned how to balance audio for my voice recordings. That is my diplomatic way of saying sorry for the audio in the first few episodes. Learning has been achieved. Now on to our featured presentation. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Zip Slings, and welcome to Season 1, Episode 4 of The Debriefing. This is a series where I take a close look into single engagements in EVE Online. Today we have a pair of fights, each with a different wolf pilot. Let's begin. In the last few episodes, we've been doing a lot of looking at things that I did right, or things that my opponents did wrong. Today, we're going to be looking into some things that my opponents did well in the process of killing me. Remember, if you learn from your mistakes after each loss, you're doing well. If you learn from your mistakes and your opponent, you're doing twice as well. Each of these wolf pilots has a different lesson to teach us. The first plays a bit with the situation's meta aspect, bait tanking quite well to keep me interested. The second does a good job of managing manual piloting in a close quarters, non-prop mod situation, which is actually technically slingshotting, just without using a micro-warp drive. Let's start in Geminate. This is a bit of a drawn-out fight. Something to note right from the start is that the Venture has a hull bonus of +2 warp core strength. I don't know for sure if he bait tanks me with this in mind or not, but I'm going to give Leeloo Matarkanen from Pandemic Horde the benefit of the doubt. The fight starts, as most of mine in the Venture do, making sure to give him plenty of incentive to bite now or I might get away. As we engage, you can see his 200mm autocannons doing quick work on me. Let's get in close and see how things are going. My clumsy and slow Venture is taking its sweet time establishing an orbit, giving the Wolf plenty of time to get good hits in before the transversal is consistently too high. Once I establish that orbit, however, the situation quickly becomes relatively stable. I am missing a lot because the amazingly stable 545 transversal velocity is too high even for my blasters to track. This would have been a good place for me to swap to antimatter, which gets better tracking than Void, by the way, which I failed to do. He is missing a lot too, but the balance is definitely on his side. The Wolf gets a fantastic tracking bonus. Before we get too far away from it though, let's go back and figure out why that transversal velocity is so stable. You've got two ships here, both moving. I'm doing between 250 and 280 meters per second, and he's doing a pretty stable 300 meters per second. Why would the transversal be so rock solid? The answer, of course, is that he is approaching me. Watch his vector line here for a moment and notice that it unvaryingly tracks with the tail end of my orbit. This is consistent with a ship command, not manually piloting. Keep that in mind, as we'll be looking at a much different vector line in the next clip. Back to Leeloo though. Remember how I said his lesson was bait tanking? Well, watch the remainder of this fight and keep in mind that he has a rep fit this entire time. The only reason that I'm staying here is because this fight feels so winnable. If I could just figure out the thing to do to stop the slow, steady bleeding, I might have a chance at bagging a really unlikely kill. Even though I do very little actual piloting, throughout this fight I am making sure that we are still alone, and basically the entire rest of my attention is directed towards trying to think up a way to ever so slightly change the variables in my favor without breaking our equilibrium. Once we get near the end, I'm in very low armor, he's only about half, and I notice that he reps. As soon as I see that, I know there is no point in sticking around. I look for a way out, transversal drops as I align, and that's the end of my Venture. Again, I don't know if it was intentional, but we'll give him the benefit of the doubt and props to Leeloo Matarkanen for a good fight. I met our second and final wolf pilot in Wicked Creek. Before we reach the wolf, I wanted to draw your attention to how this fight started. It's a tactic that I've been using for quite a while and have become rather fond of. It's really simple. When you get to a system with people ratting and can't manage to catch any of them, warp to the sun and just sit there. Pump your D-scan, give it a few minutes, and you'll be surprised at how often a ratter will reship to come try to kill you so they can go back to PvE. That is what this slasher pilot does here, and as you can see, the Venture is more than capable of handling him. I stick around at the sun afterwards though, because what I'm really looking for here is a challenge from the wolf that pops up on scan a few times. Shout out to Highland Skycross, formerly of Theron Alliance. Also shout out to his ship name, the Scopuli. If you've never seen The Expanse, give it a watch. It comes with Amazon Prime. Amazon, sponsor me. I won't go into a lot of detail on the next part, but I string out their kitchen sink gang 2 jumps to get one of them alone for a bit. The wolf is at the head of the pack, so I let him catch me and see what we're working with. First thing to note is that he has artillery fit, unlike Lilu, so my tactic of getting in close and using the tracking disruptor will be even more heavily effective than with the previous opponent. His success will rely completely on slingshotting my small orbits to get advantageous shots off on me. Once I'm in close, he stops being able to track with those artillery cannons. I zoom in to get a good idea of what he's doing, and we can see right here that Hylan is already making different decisions than Lilu. His ship's vector line is not pointed at or directly away from me. Like we mentioned before, if it were pointed steadily at me, this would tell me that he was approaching. If it were pointed directly away, that would tell me that he's trying to orbit or keep at range. Instead, he's selected a direction intentionally. Now watch what happens to his vector line here. I'll show it again because it can be hard to tell what's going on. As I come around him, you can see his vector line shrink, change direction, and grow. This is him changing direction. And watch what my Venture, which is on a standard orbit command, does. See how it takes me forever to turn around? This is partly due to the Venture having terrible agility, because it isn't designed for this kind of maneuvering, and partly due to the unintuitive code governing orbit commands. I would be much better off manually piloting once I see that he is as well. Let's go back and watch that one more time. This time, keep an eye on the transversal velocity here, and note when he lands that huge 850 damage shot. He slows down, makes the turn, speeds up to over 400 meters per second. I turn to keep up, transversal drops to under 200 meters per second, and the shot lands. This is how close quarters slingshotting works. The wolf has no prop mod to work with because he's scrammed, but he can use my ship's momentum against me to gain the upper hand. The rest of the fight isn't super important. The Corm comes in and helps him kill me off, but his correct assessment of what he needs to do to defeat my fit is spot on. He would have beat me without the Corm, and Highland Skycross earns a spot in this episode with intelligent close quarters slingshotting. Good fight. That concludes this episode of The Debriefing. This also marks the end of Season 1. The next time you see me will be when I post the highlight reel for the Heron, which is the ship that you all voted for next. If you would like a say in what I fly after the Heron, make sure to vote on the Heron video within about a week. What's that you say? Want to know when the Heron video will come out so you can vote on what's next? Well, my friends, primary is the sub button, secondary is the bell icon, and I will see you there. Following that highlight reel will be a similar several episode season of The Debriefing, all focused on the Heron. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave a comment if you think I missed something important. Let me know what you think of this format, and if you have any footage of yourself or someone else that you would like to see analyzed, feel free to leave a comment, find me on Twitter, the EVE Discord, God help us, or simply contact me in-game. This has been Zip Slings, and thank you for watching.